Welcome to Environmental Management Made Simple. In this section, we'll be covering ecosystems and their relationships. If you were to go outside, what would you see? Some grass, some dirt, a rock, a tree, the neighbor's dog maybe? Congratulations, you, like everyone else, are in an ecosystem. I know most textbooks will point to the lush Amazon rainforests and the vast savanna, but an ecosystem can take a variety of shapes and sizes. Simply put, an ecosystem is the interaction of living and non-living things in a physical environment or area. It's a system. Plants root to soil, animals take shelter, fish spawn in a riverbed, it's all connected. I'm here to talk a little more about ecosystems, the things living in them, and our relationship with it all. We'll cover ecosystems and their inhabitants, niches and the roles of different organisms, relationships between species, an ecosystem's complexity and resilience, and our relationship with it all. While the abiotic or non-living components are extremely vital to the workings of an ecosystem, we'll be talking more about the biotic or living things in an environment. You're probably familiar with food webs and food chains in your elementary class, and yeah, they're a big deal. Each living member of an ecosystem plays a sort of role or serves some sort of function that contributes to the entire show. We call this a niche or niche, whatever you want to call it. It describes the place an organism has in its environment. Not like its physical living space, like a habitat, but rather its job, in a sense. See, what makes an ecosystem a strong one is one with a wide variety of different species with many different niches. Each interacts with the other in many different ways. An even better ecosystem is one with enough species that serve similar niches. This is known as redundancy. Try and think of, on the Great Plains of Africa, you have wildebeest and antelope. Both serve as grazing animals that can also be prey for different predators. Like a living thing, ecosystems can adapt to change and continue to flourish. It's that blend of complexity and connectedness of it all that makes them so remarkable. See, when an ecosystem relies heavily on just one specific species and its niche, that organism is known as a keystone species. It essentially means that if that species dies off, so will most of the ecosystem surrounding it. Try to think of the American beaver. It provides homes for millions of fish and fishing birds and many other species. It can be a tricky balance, but ecosystems have been pulling this off for millions of years. But something's changed. It's us. As humans, we've harnessed this power to manipulate our environment, and it basically lets us live anywhere. But there's an issue with that. Ecosystems get hurt in the process. See, nature's pretty tough. Like we mentioned before, they're built to change and adapt. Like any system, they go through a specific set of changes to accomplish this. There's a concept used in environmental management called system resilience. The ecologist C.S. Buzz Holling got us to think of resilience as a sort of lazy figure eight in which ecosystems go through a constant cycle of rapid growth in which a lot of new species take on different niches and a lot of things are getting figured out. Conservation is where things start to stabilize and a lot of the system starts storing resources. Release, or when something is disturbed, and reorganization is when the system has to struggle to put things back together, and then it returns back to growth. Ecosystems can bounce back from even the worst of impacts, but with the rate human impact has on them, things get difficult. Resilience varies from ecosystem to ecosystem, but it highly depends on just how much they're being damaged. There's another part to that figure eight, in which during reorganization, a system goes through an exit route, or it goes through a significant change that completely transforms it. These changes are known as regime shifts. It's usually caused by human impact, like pollution, overharvesting, or the introduction of invasive species. An ecosystem with a unique biome will tend to shift towards one that can adapt to human impact. The new biome is completely different, usually less diverse, and provides less life-saving benefits. Let's take a coral reef, for example. It's a pretty well-known type of biome. It can be directly impacted by humans due to overfishing or pollution, or indirectly through global warming and climate change. What's left behind is a barren span of sand and algae after that regime shift. It lacks that complexity and variability seen in a strong coral reef ecosystem. That coral reef being changed can bring a serious issue to all the organisms living in it, and even the other ecosystems around it. Most species will end up dying off, unable to adapt to the shift. A significantly smaller amount of oxygen is produced and less carbon is stored. and overall biological activity plummets. Remember, everything is connected, and it's important to remember that every source of ecological harm can spell disaster for the entire planet. That's why understanding ecosystems and biomes and how they work is so vital for environmental management. Each one is different and with different needs, strengths, and weaknesses. By assessing what we can do to sustain ourselves in a way that ecosystems can recover from them, we can find a future in which both we and this environment can coexist. I'd like to say thank you to anyone who stuck around long enough to listen to all of this. I hope you got to know at least a little bit more about ecology and environmental management. Most of my information came from Environmental Science, A Global Concern by William and Mary Cunningham, as well as my professor, Tara Bishop. Thank you.